trigger warning, there is going to be some video of some spiders and all sorts of other creepy crawlies. So if that bothers you, you should maybe watch another video. In Hollywood movies and on television, we can always tell who the good guys are because they're good looking and they don't creep us out like at all. We always knew who the bad guys are because they're the opposite. They creep us right the heck out and they're ugly. They're cold-blooded killers and we don't like that. Well, here in the garden, we really like those cold-blooded killers. We want the murder monkeys to just run on a rampage all through our garden. This is the who's who of the guardians of the garden. Paper wasps get a bad rap, probably because they look a lot like yellow jackets, and yellow jackets are assholes. But both paper wasps and yellow jackets can be great visitors in the garden as long as their nests aren't where we need to be. Paper wasps and yellow jackets will catch and consume caterpillars and aphids and other soft-bodied insects around the garden that would otherwise munch on our plants. The adults live primarily on nectar. The larvae, developing back in the nests, really need that protein from insect flesh to grow. And so that's what the adults are doing. They're out here being murder monkeys so that they can take that protein home to the nest and grow a new generation of bloodthirsty thugs to protect our garden. You are absolutely not. You're not a bad person if you need to eliminate a wasp nest that is in the way. But please consider, because they are such voracious predators to raise up their young in our gardens, if a nest is not in your way, if it's out of the way, consider leaving it alone. If I've changed your mind about wasps and you're like, yeah, wasps, be in my garden, there are some things you can do to attract them to your garden so you have even more wasps. Having an abundance of nectar-rich flowers around your garden will help attract the adults, and while they're grabbing a snack in your flowers, if they spot a caterpillar, they will take that home. Another really important thing for wasps and also bees is the presence of a water source where they can stop and have a drink. This is going to need to be something with rocks or gravel in it so that they don't drown, because that kind of defeats the purpose. Now, expanding on the whole wasp idea, these guys are a lot less scary because we don't even see them. You got your parasitic wasps. Parasitic wasps are very similar in terms of diet and life cycle to the paper wasps, but instead of dragging their prey back to the nest for their larvae to eat them, they lay their eggs on or in the prey right in the garden, and then their larvae hatch out and eat them, typically alive. Now, different parasitic wasps will specialize in different prey, and you'll find them parasitizing everything from caterpillars to aphids to sometimes even tarantulas. Most parasitic wasps prefer feeding from flowers like alyssum and members of the dill family, umbelliferous or umbel-shaped flowers. So if you keep a lot of flowers like yarrow and dill, you will be attracting those parasitic wasps that will help keep your populations of aphids and caterpillars in check. Everybody knows what a ladybug looks like, and everybody knows that we want them in our garden because they eat aphids. But the more recognizable life stage of a ladybug actually doesn't eat as many aphids as their larvae do. And a lot of people, when I'm on the gardening forums, they're like, what is this terrifying thing? Should I kill it? Because they don't know what ladybug larvae look like. So I think it is important to make sure that you know when you see this ugly thing crawling around on your plants, it is a guardian of the garden and you should not kill it with fire. It is a baby ladybug and it actually eats a lot more aphids than the adults do. Now, if you want to attract ladybugs to your garden because you understand that it is actually a waste of money to buy a bunch of ladybugs and let them go in your garden, just like the parasitic wasps, you want umbelliferous flowers. So the kind of umbrella-shaped, lots of small flowers. Yarrow, dill, fennel, and coriander are particularly good at attracting adult ladybugs. And while the adults are hanging around, sucking up that nectar from your flowers, if they find any aphids, they'll probably want to lay some eggs nearby. and get that life cycle started with their terrifying and wonderful larvae. Nectar sources like marigolds, alyssum, and calendula can also be really effective for attracting ladybugs. Hoverflies mimic bees to avoid predation, probably. I mean, they mimic bees. We don't know absolutely why they do it. Maybe they just think bees are cool, which would make them the smartest flies on Earth. But for whatever reason, they look like bees, and you're probably not going to want to kill them because they look like bees. If you are curious and you're like, that's a weird looking bee, is that a bee? Look closer and you'll see a pair of knobby little antennae on their heads. That's a hoverfly. The adult hoverflies primarily eat nectar. They don't eat a lot of insects, but they can be really effective pollinators in the garden and they won't hurt your plants. It's their nasty, nasty little maggoty maggots that are going to do the majority of the pest control, and they absolutely love to lay their eggs on plants that are infested with aphids. Those eggs hatch out, the maggots crawl around on your plant, and they stab the aphids with their pointy mouth parts, and they suck their insides out, and they discard the husk, and they can eat as many as 30 aphids a day, which, when you're a tiny little maggot, is actually quite a lot. Hoverflies prefer to lay their eggs wherever they find aphids. So if you can attract hoverflies to your garden with nectar sources, if there are any aphids nearby, they should be able to smell them, and they'll lay their eggs among them and do you a solid. The adults are attracted to nectar-rich flowers, so alyssum and coriander and all of the flowers that I've talked about for wasps and maybe for ladybugs. They're also great for hoverflies, and it's really convenient that this really small list of flowers attracts so many beneficial insects. Adult and larval lacewings will eat whiteflies and thrips and aphids and caterpillars that they find on the leaves in your garden. Lacewings are really amazing garden visitors. The adults don't eat as many insect prey as their larvae do. They're adulting now. Their whole job is to reproduce, whereas the larvae are growing and need all that protein. But either way, if you see a lacewing in your garden, you should welcome it and be super glad that it's there. Their eggs are really easy to recognize because they are kind of suspended away from the leaves. The larvae of the lacewings, if you see them, this is another ugly little weirdo. Don't kill it with fire. It's doing you a solid by being in your garden. Because adult lacewings are reliant on nectar to survive, just like everything else, nectar-rich flowers are going to attract them to your garden. It's kind of awesome how many problems you can solve by planting some pretty flowers. All of the spiders are good for our gardens. In all of the planet Earth, we've only discovered one spider that eats vegetable matter, and that one type of spider is nowhere near North America or Europe. Jumping spiders are my favorite. I tend to prefer garden spiders that don't leave big webs in my way for me to walk through and freak right the heck out. Jumping spiders hardly spin any web at all, maybe occasionally a little hammock to sleep in, so they are fantastic. Also, they have those cute giant eyes that actually give them some of the best eyesight in all of spider kind, which allows them to get the heck out of my way so they don't accidentally jump on me and, again, freak me right the heck out. Next best thing, I think, are the wolf spiders, another non-web spinner. Welcome in my garden, wolf spiders. Problem though, if you have loose enough soil, the mommy wolf spiders carrying their egg sacs like to dig down into the soil during the daytime and hide out, which means sometimes I will go out into the garden and I'll put my little trowel in to plant a plant, and like 2 or 3 wolf spiders will come darting out of the soil at me. It's not their fault. They have terrible eyesight. They were just protecting their young, but oh my gosh, I scream like a little girl every single time. Still a guardian of the garden though. Please don't kill them with the fire. If you want to attract spiders to your garden, first of all, good for you, dark hidey holes are a safe bet. Rove beetles are kind of a childhood favorite for me. I've loved them ever since I was a kid, and I didn't even know when I was a kid that I was gonna have a garden. But whenever I saw a rove beetle, I thought they were so cool because they look kind of like earwigs if you pulled off their little butt pinchers. I mean, they're not They don't, I mean, they're the wrong color. They're mostly black, and earwigs are kind of a reddish brown. Also, they don't move the same. I always loved Rove Beetles. And it turns out Rove Beetles are amazing garden insects. Rove Beetles eat all sorts of critters with exoskeletons, including the earwigs that they kind of sort of resemble. And Rove Beetles prefer habitat that is very similar to their prey. So if you want to have a lot of Rove Beetles in your garden and you want them to be happy, make sure there are, chunks of wood for them to hide under, nice loose mulch for them to creep around in. Basically the things that help preserve water and keep your plant roots cool are going to attract Rove Beetles to your garden. And they in turn will eat a lot of those pests that also like that habitat that we need to create in the garden so that our tomatoes don't get blossom end rot. Because assassin bugs, or North American wheel bugs, have to drink their meals through a face straw, they prefer soft-bodied insects. They will jam their face straw into their prey and suck out their guts. It's fantastic. Aphids and caterpillars are awesome soft prey. I mean, sometimes they'll go after other bugs like your squash bugs, but they really, really like the aphids and the caterpillars because they're so juicy and soft. You're unlikely to see the eggs or larvae of assassin bugs because they like to hide those in the mulch. If you've got a lot of mulch though, you might be harboring some assassin bug eggs and larvae, and that's good news. It's good news. Trust me, it's good news. This is another one that likes all the same flowers as parasitic wasps. I don't even know, it's more than a twofer now. You plant those parasitic wasp flowers, you plant your umbelliferous flowers, you plant your yarrow, you plant all that good stuff, and you will get a whole bevy of deeply unbeautiful garden guardians to help you out. There are some internet sources that say that assassin bugs can be attracted to your garden with lights, like these. I wasn't able to confirm that with researched sources, so you're on your own there. If you like garden lights, you might be attracting assassin bugs, or that might be a load of hooey, and just enjoy your lights. Now, these are not all of the beneficial critters that can visit our gardens and murder all the pests. There are many, many more beneficial critters on Earth than this. One thing I do want to leave you with, though, is that in all of insect kind, hundreds of thousands of species of insects, there are maybe 1 to 3% of them that are pests of any kind. That means that if you see a bug you don't recognize, there's a 99% chance that it's not doing any harm to you or your garden, and you should probably not kill it with fire. And the reason I'm saying this is that a lot of people get really hyper vigilant in their gardens, and their first instinct is it an enemy? Do I need to kill it? So just maybe. It's probably not though, and we need to stay calm and maybe do our research before we go on a garden killing spree. Most of the unfamiliar stuff is unfamiliar because it's not hurting anything. It's just coming by for a visit, and it might even do some good while it's there. I would love it if you left a comment about one of your favorite beneficial insects that I didn't cover in this video. There are literally thousands. We could have a great conversation in the comments if that's what you're into. I need about 70 more subscribers to monetize my channel. We're so close, so close. So if you're still watching my video, just hit subscribe. I mean, why not? You watched this whole video. That means there's a reasonable chance I'm gonna come out with something else you like. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you liked it, hit the notification bell so that when I do come out with that other winner, you'll know, you'll be notified. And as always, thank you for joining me here in my garden. I hope you have a wonderful time in your own.